Welcome to Mite Convos, episode 2.
Welcome.
I am here. Well, my name is Madison.
Yes,
And
I am here.
I am here with
Scott. My name's Scott Toll.
And what do you do, Scott Toll?
I am for this I do a lot of things, but for this conversation I am the founder of Mite.org, previously known as eMite, and I am Madison's boss.
He's also my father.
And
It's a messy situation.
Indeed.
All right. So today we are going to be talking about matching campaigns and the process, what they are, why they exist.
Right.
So we're going to kind of, what would you say, break it down.
Break it down. We're going to dive in. We're
Yeah.
going to go deep
Yeah.
into matching funds.
And whenever we were talking about what we wanted, when we were discussing what we wanted to talk about, you told me or said that, everybody understands, well, majority of people probably understand that it means that their gift is multiplied, doubled, tripled, however much may be. But are people fully understanding the implications of that? What does that actually mean, and how does that affect the organization as well?
Yeah.
What are the benefits that come out of matching?
Right, I think that's the key question, and hopefully we'll be able to answer it. Now, I will qualify this discussion by saying neither one of us are tax professionals or
No.
CPAs, or we do run a charity, and we have done matching funds campaigns before, so we do know the influence. We're also donors, so we know the influence on that side. But I've dealt with this, the matching funds topic, and worked with charities, and on the donor side with foundations on matching funds for decades now. So I'm pretty well versed on it. But technical details like tax questions and things like that, those would be best go to
A professional.
To a professional.
Not us. All right, so I'm going to start it off, and I did a little bit of research before this, but, and I told you I know, but Benjamin Franklin, the OG of matching funds, literally, he was actually,
$100 bill?
Yeah, he was actually the first person who, what do you want to call it, came up with the idea of matching funds.
He was the originator.
Yeah, back in 1751. Somebody said it was actually perhaps one of his greatest inventions.
Wow, that is quite the statement.
I mean, they're still using it all the way till today. So
well, they use electricity. Well, I guess he didn't invent electricity, though.
No.
Yeah.
So yeah, he was responsible for the first matching gift campaign, and it's actually what created the Pennsylvania hospital, which I'm not familiar with that hospital, but I'm guessing it's been around for a long time. And so I wrote this down, but here's what the hospital had to say from its own history. With Franklin's talent for popularizing an idea, funds were obtained from both the Pennsylvania legislature and private citizens in 1751. Franklin received a promise from the legislator to match whatever he collected from the public. This fundraising method, now known as matching fund drive, was a new technique.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where it started.
Amen. He's the man.
He is.
It's a great idea.
It is.
And I will say, in all seriousness, it has truly impacted charity in terms of donating, influence on donations substantially. So
yeah. So I think before we go into the stats of how donors perceive matching funds, why it actually increases giving normally. Can you give me like a 2-sentence of how you would explain matching campaigns?
Well, so matching funds or matching campaigns are a method of fundraising used by charities and can also be seen influencing other types of fundraising efforts. Basically, it's a fundraising method where the organization that is raising the funds has acquired a sponsor that will match any donation coming in. And so from the charity standpoint, they are, for every dollar that they raise, they actually get a second dollar from the sponsor. And this allows them to, they can promote that match to the donor, so the donor can understand that when they give their dollar, there's another dollar. Their charity is getting double the gift. And you can actually have different types of matching funds. I won't go into detail on that because I know we're going later on, but you can actually develop these matching funds in different manners to accomplish the goals that you want to accomplish, whether you're on the donor side or the sponsor side, or if you're on the organizational charity side.
Yeah, and donors love it.
Donors love it. They do. People like to know that when they give, they have a certain amount to give, and here it's going to be doubled.
Yeah.
Right. So for them, for the organization that they're supporting, that they've chosen to support, it's twice as good. So to them, it's twice as good.
Yeah.
Charities love it. I think charities, I mean, you know how hard it is to raise funds.
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
That could be a whole other podcast.
That would be a lot of tears. There'd be a lot of tears going on in that
Yeesh.
one. But the charities like it. Obviously, they love it because they're getting $2 instead of $1. But also, the sponsors also like it. And in fact, a lot of the matching fund campaigns are not driven by the organization. I shouldn't say the fundraising is driven by the organization, but the establishment of the matching funds is often done by sponsors, because a sponsor wants to encourage the charity or the organization that they're supporting to go out there and get other people to engage. And so you'll have a lot of donor organizations, foundations, giving circles, different organizations that will encourage the charities to use their funds as matching funds.
Yeah. And so, so like you said, donors love it. Just doing a little bit of research before. So from Double the Donation, they did a study, and they found that 84% of donors are more likely to give if their contributions will be matched. And 1 in 3 donors say they'd make a larger donation if a match were available.
Mm-hmm.
Also from an organization called TechSoup, they found that mentioning matching gifts and fundraising appeals, so on newsletters, on social media, wherever it may be, saw an increase of 71% in response rate and a 51% increase in average donation amount. So it sounds to me like if you mention you're having a matching campaign, you're running a matching campaign, or you have matching funds, people are more likely to give, but they're also more likely to increase their gift.
Yeah, which is a fascinating metric, because it is almost as if it's a challenge to the donor to increase their amount, and that's that's an interesting development.
So you kind of explained what matching funds are. I wanted to go into what you were saying of the sponsors. How do you actually source the person that's going to match it?
Well, as I mentioned, I think in terms of sponsorship of a matching fund campaign, a lot of it comes to the charity, right? Let me restate that. What I mean is that more frequently, matching funds are an element that a donor organization will provide to the charity. So they will drive the donor on the donor side, the donor organization side. They will drive the establishment of the fund, mm-hmm. of the campaign. So in most instances, charities who are running matching campaigns have been challenged by an organization to raise matched funds. If an organization would like to encourage their donors to give utilizing a matching funds, then in that scenario, your funding arm or your development arm of that organization would engage their larger donors. They would go to their larger donors and request or offer the opportunity to have their donations. Maybe they make annual donations to the organization, or maybe they don't, but they're known for giving larger donations. They'll ask them to sponsor a matching fund and be a part of a matching funds campaign. And essentially what that means is that if you go out to a group of donors and say, hey, would you be a part of this, let's just call it $100,000 matching fund. We're going to raise $100,000. We're going to raise a pool of donations from matching individuals that will become a $100,000 campaign that will then match $100,000 in donations. Okay? And then those donations that come in would be matched up to $100,000
by that pool.
By the pool from these individuals. In most instances, that's the type of scenario that you get involved with. The sponsors are generally foundations, could be corporations, or other large high net worth individuals who are known to sponsor the organization.
Right.
That's what you would be looking for if you were a charity and you were looking to sponsor a matching fund.
Right. And that's what we've done at our organization, at Mite. Mostly. That's how
correct.
We've done it.
That's correct. We've only had one time when we've actually been presented with a challenge of a matching fund.
Right.
Of a certain type. And a couple of other instances that we've run matching funds, we've actually identified individuals within our donor base that we felt might engage in it as matchers.
We call them the mad matchers.
We call them the mad matchers. And we've presented those opportunities to them.
Right. But I also wanted to get into, before we move on to the next topic or segment, employee matching gifts.
Yeah.
So corporations matching gifts from their employees.
Sure, and I don't know that I would put that in the category of a matching fund campaign.
True, I guess it's not really a campaign.
No, but it's the same concept where if an employee is giving underneath, within a corporate giving program, if an employee is giving and their corporation has agreed to match their employees' gifts, then it's doubling their gift, which is fantastic. And so that can happen in or out of a campaign. The nice thing is that if the organization in which you're supporting has a matching funds campaign going on outside of your corporate gift, then you might have a scenario where you give, the corporation matches your gift, and then the organization has a matching fund that will then match it again, which triple is good.
Yeah.
Triple's great.
You ended up giving 3 times the amount.
3 times the amount.
I think a lot of employees, especially if they've recently started at companies, don't even know that their company has a matching gift set up for their employees. Right,
and frankly, I'm not all that familiar with that. But in most instances, if a corporation has a social responsibility campaign or a corporate giving campaign program, they'll have some guidelines defining it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think an employee should be able to get those guidelines pretty easily so that they can understand if the corporation would double their gift.
Yeah, probably the human resources department.
Yeah, that would be a good start.
Yeah. All right, so let's say that you're a donor, you're approached to either give to a matching, become the pool of people that will eventually have their donations matched, or give to a current matching fund. Mm-hmm. So your donation will be matched. Right. How do donors give, and what can they give? What can be given to matching campaigns?
So matching campaigns can actually be defined. I mean, you can set up a matching campaign in almost any format. So I know we're not talking about types yet,
Mm-hmm.
but one of the interesting aspects of a matching fund, it has fingers that go all into all different topics that we can discuss. So I want to be careful on how I approach this. Let me just answer the question then, very straightforward. You can give practically anything to matching funds that you can give to a charity, right?
Right.
So let's say, for example, a donor can give cash. A donor can write a check. A donor can give a credit. They can give by
Online.
credit card. They can give online, Venmo, PayPal, any of the normal ways that you would give. You can give ACH. Then you get into scenarios like, can a donor give stock?
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yes, a donor can give stock, and that stock donation can be attributed to a matching fund, whether it's on the funding side, right, to be matched, or whether it's on the donor side, the matching side, where it is used to match the gift. Here's the thing. I mean, you could give a car, you could give a boat, you could give hard assets like land.
I mean, some people give their houses,
You can give their
which that is
you can give houses.
crazy.
You can give shares in your corporation. There's all kinds of things that you can give. The one thing to understand is that in areas where you're dealing with an asset that either has to be appraised or has to be sold in order to get market value, it's not clear on what you're giving to the fund, right?
Right.
So, so if you have a strict matching fund scenario where, let's say, you're raising $100,000, there's a $100,000 match. Let's say you give a gift of land, and that land has to have a marketable value. You don't know what that marketable value is until you get an appraisal or until you sell the land.
Right.
So how much are you actually matching? So I think in scenarios like that, you either have to have a very long-term matching scenario,
Right.
or a quick way of getting valuation, or give cash.
Yeah, or
To
give
be-
online.
Or give online, to be definitive,
Right.
to know exactly what you're matching. I think that would be the scenario. Now, I don't think any organization that's running a matching campaign would necessarily reject a hard asset. And by the way, you could use organizations. I shouldn't neglect to remember this. You can give through organizations like the National Christian Foundation or the Signatory.
Yeah, through
where
DAFs.
where they can very easily process their those type of gifts like land and stocks. And they can process them, getting them into a DAFT account, a donor advised fund, and then you can grant money to the organization, which would be matched.
Yeah.
So there are ways to get around that and make it quicker, but pretty much anything can be given to a matching fund.
Yeah. So many ways you can give. But I have a question. There's such a thing as making commitments. What are our feelings about commitments?
Pledges and commitments. Yeah.
Lots of people say they're making commitments. Maybe we should explain. We don't even have this in the notes, but
No, I
what
know we
even
don't.
is a commitment?
Well, a commitment is a promise in essence. So there's different ways that you can give commitments to charities. Some people have little cards that they hand out at events, and you can write your commitment or pledge on that card. And essentially, or you might just, you might in a matching fund campaign. Let's say that you're going to be a matcher, you're going to be a mad matcher. You might say, "Hey, I'm going to give to this. In this quarter, I'm going to give this amount to this to be a mad matcher." And during that quarter, you may not give it at the time that you made the commitment, but down within that quarter, you're going to give that amount. So basically, this is a pledge to give a certain amount in a certain time frame.
Right.
Organizations, nonprofits will take that pledge as an actual donation. Now, they can't give a tax donation on it, right? They can't give a tax receipt. There's no tax receipt on a pledge. So there's no credit to the donor until the actual donation is made. But an organization, if they hear, hey, I want to give $5,000 towards this matching campaign, and I'm going to give it in December, but right now it's October, the organization that is doing the match, the nonprofit, will accept that pledge as an actual donation. So they'll count it at the time that it is pledged, and it will go into the matching fund to be received later.
Yeah, so basically, if donors decide to make commitments, it's very, very kind of them to follow through, because the organizations are...
I would say it's absolutely essential that
they
follow through.
I mean, it's a
kind.
pledge, yeah.
I mean, obviously things happen in people's lives, but I would argue that pledges should be made understanding that nothing is going to happen that's going to prevent those.
Right. Okay, well, I just wanted to talk about that other way that people do it, because we've had people who have made commitments.
Sure.
And they followed through.
And they have followed through.
They have followed through.
Yeah.
That's why we love our donors.
Absolutely love them. That's not only the only reason why we love them.
No, there are many.
Yes.
Before we go into like the practical ways, you touched on the many different types of matching funds, and I wanted to hit on that. Yeah.
So I do think that this is important to note. So one of the cool things about matching funds is that you can use them to accomplish different things. So for example, we'll just give a personal example regarding Mite. Mite we're a relatively new organization. We're just 7 years old now. We started with no network, first time in charity, first time doing what we're doing, and have developed a donor base out of that, but it's still relatively a small donor base. So as a personal example and a real example, we have a matching fund challenge to our organization, Mite, to raise funds from new donors. And we want to grow people's activity with Mite and engaging in our projects. And this organization would like to encourage us to get more donors. So the matching fund is related specifically to getting new donors. Mm-hmm. And we have a certain amount of match and a certain time frame, which is actually, thank God, a very long time frame, to raise donations from new donors, so that every new donor who gives, their donation is matched dollar for dollar. So if we raise $10,000 in a given month, then it all came from a new donor, then that's matched and it becomes $20,000 to the organ, to Mite. So that's an instance where it's a very specific type of donor base that we're looking at, and that's kind of an example of how you can use matching funds. Now, I would say to organizations that are interested in helping charities in this manner, by challenging them, to make sure you don't go too far, and make it unrealistic.
You mean how much they're going to raise?
I mean, how much you restrict the match, right?
Oh, yeah.
So you don't want to make it so convoluted or so complex or even so difficult that the charity isn't going to make it happen, because what's the point then?
Right.
But let's say that an organization needed, and the organization understood it, that they needed a facility. Well, a foundation or a giving organization or a high net worth individual might help out by saying, hey, I'll give you half of the funds for this building, mm-hmm. and you can use it as a matching funds to raise the other half. Mm-hmm. That's a way for an organization to help its donor base, as well as any new donor, say, we've got to build a building, but hey, we got half of the funds.
Right.
And when you give, we'll be able to get that other half, and we can build the building. Some care needs to be taken with that, because what if the organization is unable to raise the funds? right? Well, they can raise to a certain point. If you've assigned a time frame with it, and they don't make the full raise, then what do? Would you still move forward with matching those funds that they raised? It's not enough to build the building, though. So either give them a long time to raise it, or in some manner make sure that there's a way for this organization, based upon their historical data, and
To finish it off.
that they can make this raise happen.
Yeah.
Otherwise, just give them the amount that's necessary to build the building. But that's an example of a special need type scenario that you can use. So, in terms of types of matching funds, the sponsors of a matching fund or the organization itself can utilize matching funds in a manner that can encourage the organization to grow, not just with more donation revenue, but also in specific areas.
Like ours, the new donors.
Like ours,
Growing
and
the giving
donors,
community.
or like a need for a new piece of equipment, or to fund something in operations, whatever it is. You can raise the normal funds for programs, and hey, we're going to match this, and it's going to go to an operational position.
Yeah. I even saw this interesting example. We've never done it at Mite, but they used it to attract lapsed donors. So donors who had given in the past,
Right.
but no longer gave.
Right.
So the organization agreed to match any lapsed donor who they got back into the organization and actively giving.
Right.
So that was pretty interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting, and I think it's, for those who are listening or watching, I think it's important to understand, okay, well, how does that work, right? Why would you do a matching funds that was for lapsed donors? We understand the value of it,
Mm-hmm.
right? Any organization that's out there operating, they have limited resources, particularly smaller organizations. They have limited resources to go after lapsed donors. We're spending our time and energy and our resources reaching donors that are currently part of our organization and future donors, right?
Mm-hmm.
Thankfully, Mite does have a reoccurring activity to reach lapsed donors, but in most instances and with larger organizations, those lapsed donors are often lost,
Mm-hmm.
unless someone challenges you to go after them.
Right.
And in a matching funds, in a matching funds campaign, you have a tangible method that will immediately challenge the organization to say, hey, you have a benefit that goes beyond just simply getting a donation from those lapsed donors. You have an additional match that will go against that as well, which gives more incentive for the organizations to go after those lapsed donors,
Right.
who might have been forgotten had they not done it.
Yeah. And if you're an organization that has a massive list
Donor
of,
list?
donor list of lapsed donors, people that didn't give again or people that stopped giving years ago, that's really not a list you want to ignore. In my eyes, I think, and I'm sure there are studies on this, but I think it's easier to attract those donors. You have all their contact information. They've already given to you before. And so,
Well, no, I mean that's also another topic
Yeah,
for
that
another
is.
thing. But I absolutely agree with you. But even if you have that, and even if you acknowledge the fact that it's better to go after an individual who has donated to your organization. I didn't say that right. It's better to reach out to individuals who have already been active and for whatever reason have stopped being active than it is to go after those that have never been active at all. You have a higher likelihood of success with those who've already been active. There was a reason why they gave.
Right.
There was a reason why they're not giving, and it may be as simple as they forgot about you, and maybe an email will jog their memory.
their life got busy.
Yeah, I mean,
So seriously.
Yeah, or they lost their job for a period of time.
Yeah.
I mean, there's all kinds of things that stop donors from giving to you.
They got married and had to buy a house.
Why'd you bring up that one?
Oh, I don't know. I'm kidding. I will continue giving even after I get married.
Well, thank God.
So practically, before we go into the benefits for donors, and I feel like we've kind of hit on that a bit, but practically, how do nonprofits run a matching campaign? I'm getting down into how do they use online marketing? What are the kind of words they should use?
Okay. So difference between running and promoting, right?
Sorry, we've done running, now promoting. Let's say they've got.
Let me just touch really quickly on actually running.
Okay.
So in your books, as a charity, in your books, and you're going to run a matching campaign, you can use a number of different methods, but from an accounting standpoint, you want to make sure that you are accountable and you use good stewardship in accounting for the match, right? I mean, you can't just haphazardly throw it out there and say, hey, yeah, we matched it. You need to acknowledge the matching gifts or the pledges as they are accounted for. So if it's a mad matcher or someone who's going to be in that pool of funds that will be matched by donations coming in, those are donations themselves, and the individual should receive donation receipts related to those gifts that go into that pool, but they have to be accounted for, right? So let's say you raise $50,000. That $50,000 is accounted for separately from your other donations, and that becomes what you match.
Right.
Now, there's different ways of doing that. You can if it's a small matching fund campaign and it's going to be run for a few months, maybe you just create a spreadsheet, you put it in there, and you account for it with donations that come in. And you just say, okay, we match this amount compared to what the pool is, and you create a schedule that records how you're progressing with the matching funds. Now, if it's a longer campaign or larger campaign, you may have to work it into your actual accounting GL accounts, your ledger accounts, and you may want to set aside that matching funds amount as let's call it a liability. It's a donation, but it is, well, no, let's not call it liability. It's an asset. It would be an asset of the donation, the money that was given, and the pledges that were given into the nonprofit that are a pool to be matched. They're an asset within it, but you haven't realized them yet. Mm-hmm. Because you haven't matched them yet. But
right.
As you match them, you're going to pull out of that GL account, and you're going to match them against your donations that come in. That's getting into the weeds quite a bit in terms of accounting.
But you
maybe
do.
In the accounting geek I am, I kind of get into that stuff.
But it is important because you're held accountable to the person, the pool of people who made that match possible.
Exactly.
You have to report to them, this is how we're doing.
Right, and that's really, really an important aspect of this that you can't forget as a charity, and that goes to the promotion side of it. So let's set that other side. I didn't do a great job of explaining it, but let's set that aside. If you got questions on it, let us know, or talk to your CPA. The promotion side of it, I think I'm going to start where you just hit on, because this would be something that most people would overlook. The promotion side of the matching funds, in my mind, begins with making sure that the mad matcher, or the person who gave in order to be matched, is aware of how that matching fund is going, the progress of how it goes. That's part of the fundraising. It's part of the promotion. Why? Because that person or that organization has partnered with you to create something on the other side, whether it's a challenge to get new donors or whether it's just raise funds for the end of the year. that's a partnership between the two of you.
Yeah.
And if you receive those funds and say, we got your check, thank you very much, and you think you're done, then you're doing a terrible job of promoting your matching funds.
They probably won't come back the next year. So
unless they really love your organization. They may
or
not.
love you.
So I would encourage, first of all, you've got to have, when you set up a matching funds, have a program for keeping your partner, your mad matchers, let's call them, keep them aware of what's going on with the matching fund. How are you progressing? Where are you finding your new funds, right?
Yeah. How are you promoting it?
How are you promoting it? Yeah, and engage them and help them understand about how you're going about promoting it. Now, on the other side, on the donor side of it, or those donations that are going to be matched, I think it's important for them. You don't over-explain. You don't have to over-explain, right, and confuse people.
Yeah, I find that sometimes I visit these, because we get emails all the time, and I visit these websites, and I'm sure they mean well, but there's just so much information that by the end of it, you're almost not even excited that your donation's going to be doubled, because you've had to read through this essay. It's like a terms and condition when you just scroll all the way down to the bottom and press continue. Yeah,
and I think that sometimes is developed off of how complex people make the matching funds.
Yeah.
If you're an organization and you want to challenge your charity to the charity that you're helping to do something, the more control you want to have, the more complex your program is going to be in terms of a matching funds, the more arduous a task it is going to be to market it. If there's too many facets to it, the donors, they lose it, just like you were explaining. It shouldn't be that hard to say, if you give, your donation's going to be matched, and this is the purpose of the match. And that's essentially what you have to get in front of the donors. So make it as simple as possible on both the matching side as well as the pool side. Make it as simple as possible to accomplish the goal that you want to accomplish. And then the other thing that I think is a problem for charities is actually effectively promoting it, a matching funds campaign. You know, you read the stats on the influence on donors. But remember, if you have monthly donors who are giving, don't push down their throat the fact that their gift can be doubled if they give.
Yeah, because they're already giving. So they'll probably be a little confused
they're already
as to why they're receiving that many emails.
And, I mean, unless you're looking for a special gift from them and you want to put that on them, but there's not really any reason to go big on promoting to the monthly givers. New donors, whatever network you use, online, offline, whatever that network is, promote heavily to potential new donors, and do it in a manner that it is attractive and that it is concise. So there's very little confusion, and you have to make it extremely easy to donate. And I think that's across the board. If you don't have an easy way to donate to your organization now, then matching funds, frankly, doesn't matter.
It doesn't really matter if you're running a matching campaign.
But if you have the methodology, whatever method is easiest to donate to your organization is the one you want to promote to a new potential giver. And just attach information, very quick, very attractive information regarding the match. And what's important in a match? What's really, really important in a match? The most important element of a match is
that their gift gets doubled.
That their gifts get doubled.
Or tripled.
You don't have to put a lot of imagery on there. You don't have to, go through your whole mission statement and do all that. They know your organization. If you're sending them information, tell them their gift is going to be doubled.
Right.
That's it.
And that really should be, like, just coming up with basic tips on that. That really should be in the email subject. So that the stat was, if you include it in the email subject, there's a 71% increase in response rate.
Right.
Response rate could be simply them just opening up the email. But also, I think it's nice whenever, for example, whenever you make the gift tangible as well. So it's not just with the donation match, your generous gift of $50, or your generous gift of $50 will be matched right now. You add something tangible to it. So the sentence wouldn't be, if you give $50 today, your donation will be matched. It would be, if you give $50 today, your 50 will become 100 and do what?
Right. And so what's the result of that double?
And it obviously, if you're doing something exciting, or can feed a family of 4 for 2 months, that's nice. If you're trying to build a new building, you're going to have to jazz that up a little bit, but to show them where it's going, just like you said.
Go buy 5 bricks.
Yeah. I don't know how nice that sounds, but and then the other thing that I thought of, and this is something that we are currently in the developing stage at Mite, your match has to be at the point of donation. What does that mean? It means that when they are donating, they see that it's going to be matched. Mm-hmm. It's not on a completely different page. Mm-hmm. It's not in an email and then they click it and then it just brings them to a regular page with nothing about doubling their donation. It's got to be on the same, page on the website. So something that we're currently working at Mite is getting that notification bar to pop up whenever people go to our home site, and then the giving form literally being on the hero section, which is the top section of our homepage. Right,
so that people see it when they're processing their donation, people see it.
Yeah.
And ultimately, we would like to also follow up their donation with a statement that you're that thank you for giving, and a reminder your donation has been doubled.
Right.
I mean, those people who are sending in checks and giving outside of the website, we're now communicating with and telling them, a bonus to your gift is that your gift was doubled.
Right.
So continue to push that. You never know. There may be an instance where if people understand that new donors get matched, there may be an instance where someone shares this with a friend who isn't a current donor, and they give because that person's donation might get matched.
Right. And I think this goes without saying, you shouldn't only be sending emails about it, not incessantly, but, making people aware of the match. But you should also be posting about it on your social media. There are definitely ways that you can find new donors there. I mean, LinkedIn, Instagram.
And it may be worth, in some instances, it might be worth even actually using some advertising budget to get it out in front of people.
Yeah.
We know what we think about overdoing it at the fourth quarter with donors.
Yeah, we do. That is a whole other podcast. I keep on saying whole other podcast. It's not a whole other podcast. It's a whole other episode.
Oh, yeah.
I always say that.
We would have a whole bunch of podcasts if this was the real topics for a whole other podcast.
Mite Convos, Mite Conversations, all right, so I want to get, and I honestly, being very transparent, don't really know what happens when this happens. So you may have more insight.
You don't know what happens when this happens?
When this happens. Oh. What happens when a matching campaign is unsuccessful? Like you were saying with the building. And I'm not sure there is a right answer to this.
Well, there isn't a right answer. So I've never participated in a matching funds campaign that was unsuccessful. I will tell you what generally happens. Excuse me, as a matching funds campaign comes to a close, if it has a time limit on it, as it comes to a close, the raising organization, the nonprofit, will generally use every method, every channel possible in order to raise the funds.
They will show up at your door.
And so So that includes going to other large donors or whatever and saying, hey, can you give a special gift because we're not going to make this matching funds? And generally people are,
Yeah.
they're attentive
Yeah.
and they'll do something about it. So, strictly speaking, if a matching funds is not successful in raising the match, the organization that put the matching funds out there can do one of two things. They can reject the match, which I have never heard of anyone doing, or they can modify the campaign. And in modifying the campaign, they would set it at a new level, maybe a level that was already reached, and then match that amount. They could also do a third thing. They could say, okay, well, you did a great job trying to raise that. You didn't quite make it, but here's our match, and you raise the total amount of this, right? Everything depends on the relationship between the organizations, the donor organizations, and the nonprofit. How that closure is reached.
Yeah.
Of course, any campaign can be extended, right? If you don't make it happen within, let's say, the 6 months that we gave you, we'll give you another 6 months to raise. So only in the instance where the donor sponsor pulls the matching funds is their actual failure of the match.
Which you just said you've never heard of, and I don't think I have either.
I haven't, and I don't have any idea. As an organization, I don't have any idea what you would do with the donors that you promoted their gifts were matched.
I know, that would kind of be an awkward situation.
I think if it happened to us, I think what I would do is I would find a substitute to that matching organization that could potentially match those gifts.
You would bring in another person.
I would try and find another source.
Yeah, because that would be pretty brutal.
That would be
a brutal email.
Dude, that would be an email you would never want to write.
But one thing, and I don't want to stick on this too long about unsuccessful matching campaigns, because just like you said, we don't even really know of one that has been.
I don't.
But it is to be.
If anyone does, please comment, and I would be interested in hearing about it.
Yeah, that story. Just like you're supposed to keep the pool or the organizations that's making the match happen up to date,
Mm-hmm.
you should as well be keeping your donor base and the people you're promoting it to up to date, so that they know, are you 30% away from being complete? Are you 5%? You need to let them know this is how far we have to go.
Right.
I think that 100% incentivizes people to give.
Absolutely.
You can see that we only have $1,000 left to make this match happen.
Yeah, and I think we didn't mention that. We didn't mention that because it would seem to me a normal course of marketing it, of promoting it. I mean, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Wouldn't you just simply do that?
I would think you would. But to be honest, we may fall victim to not doing that occasionally, or not enough.
No, we don't.
So yeah, but that's great. I mean, neither of us don't have a ton of experience with matching campaigns, but haven't heard of one that is unsuccessful.
No.
But you do have to keep people up to date with how far you are from making it, from getting that match.
I agree, and I don't want to skip over what you said about us personally as a practical. We don't do as good of a job as we would like to do in terms of keeping the donors aware of how a matching fund is progressing. I think we're going to do better on that. I think we are doing better on it. I think we're going to do even better on it. But you have to build the processes and the methods into your systems, like your website, like your social media. You need to build that into those areas so that it isn't such a hard task in order keeping the donor base aware of how you're progressing.
Right.
I mean, it's one thing to add it to an email. It's an entirely different thing to have it updating regularly on your website.
Right.
So that's I think as organizations develop and as they run these types of campaigns, they need to, again, you need to monitor and work on getting that functionality available.
Yeah, and learn over time. Just like you were saying, there are going to be constantly things that you can improve on in your next matching campaign. So you only learn by doing these things, and then you realize at the end of each one, oh, I could have done that better. I could have done that better. All right. Well, I feel like we've done a pretty good. Yeah, sure? I feel like we've just got. You've heard us talk about Mite and our current matching challenge.
The Mite's matching challenge. We didn't actually officially talk about that. I'm not sure if we want to. It would kind of date this podcast if we gave it, and it's obviously not going to be lasting for years.
Oh, that's true.
But as of quarter Q4 2023, we do have an actual match. We have a matching campaign. This one's actually being promoted by our board, which I find extremely encouraging.
It is awesome.
It is awesome. We have an awesome board, and they've recognized the fact, or we've let them made sure that they were aware that Q4 needs to be a good Q4 for 2000. Not good. It needs to be a massive Q4.
We are literally calling it that in our board meetings.
So this is a matching fund campaign for a massive Q4 for Mite, and we have successfully raised, or very close to raising, the pool that will be matched, and so that's progressing. But donors, interestingly enough, we actually have 2 matching funds campaigns right now. So a new donor's gift to Mite will not only be matched once, but it'll be matched twice. As I mentioned before, we had the new donor specific match that's being run. So if a new donor donates to Mite right now, it gets matched twice.
Right.
So that's a 3-for-1, which is fantastic.
So 3 becomes 9.
3 becomes 9. 300 becomes 900.
Yeah.
30,000 becomes 900. No, 90,000. At any rate, so that is going on currently, and we're encouraging and working on encouraging our donor base as well as new donors, reaching out to new donors to get involved in Mite.
Alrighty, guys. Well, I hope for everybody that was somewhat helpful, whether you're coming at it listening as a donor or as someone working in a nonprofit, or just interested in what matching campaigns are. I think we all need to give a round of applause to Benjamin Franklin.
Old Ben, he the man.
Yeah. So yeah, that's what matching campaigns are. And we suggest them. If you have a nonprofit, we suggest trying it out.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if you're a donor, I would highly suggest, coming from a 26-year-old who can't give massive amounts compared to people who are a little bit more established, knowing that I can give whatever it may be, $50, knowing that is going to turn into $100 and help an organization that I love, is awesome. And so when you see them running at the organizations that you care about, I think it's a great time to give.
It is. I wouldn't suggest waiting for them.
No. You shouldn't wait for them.
But I think when they do occur, it is a time when you should consider giving, and maybe even making a special gift during that period of time.
Yeah, because generally they're run around end of year.
They do run. They run a lot at the end of the year.
Sometimes they're ongoing though. So
yeah, but it's awesome how they're an encouragement. So we like to encourage nonprofits and also donor groups and organizations. Consider running matching funds. Particularly if you're going to give a large donation, sometimes just allowing the charity to use it as a matching funds is a good idea.
Yeah, like opening that opportunity for them,
Right.
saying, I have this $50 gift. Would you consider making it a matching fund?
Right.
So.
Right. And again, when you do that, be considerate of what kind of complexity you build into it, and don't be too grandiose in your expectations regarding the raise.
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
Well, it's awesome.
Yeah. Thank you for sitting with me.
Mite Convo.
Yeah. Was I the host on that one?
Duo. Is it duo? No, duo.
Dose?
Oh, dose.
I was like, what is this man saying?
Duo.
I felt like I was a pretty good host on that one.
You were awesome.
I kept everyone on track.
I'm so happy.
All right. We'll see you guys for
Thank you very much.
Mite Convo number 3.
Bye-bye.
Bye.